A big thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this week's video.
So in this video, I go through 7 more mistakes that I've made myself and I see other photographers make all the time. Morning everybody, it's fantastic to see you all again. So I'm really excited. One, I'm getting out more, doing more photography. I don't know if you saw my midweek video. I was by the coast with a new Nikon lens. That was fantastic. We had some amazing light. I made some mistakes myself in that video, if I'm honest. The photos weren't amazing, but I was in a little bit of a rush. What I want to do though, in this video, is go through your photos. I asked on my newsletter for photos to critique and also in the Masterclass Facebook group. And I got loads of photos, too many to go through, but I tried to pick some that sort of fitted to some categories of mistakes that I see all the time, really. Now, if you haven't seen the video that I did before, then you can check it out here. It's nearly had I think it's had 2 million views, which is incredible, and 100,000 likes, so I think people liked it. I want to go through some different mistakes now, though, and sort of reiterate some things that I've also said before. So I'm going to get straight into it. I've got my iPad here, and hopefully I can go through these images. I think the first thing to say though before I do that is these are my opinions. Critiquing photos is very subjective. More often than not, I'm wrong. So, you know, take it with a pinch of salt. This is just my opinion on these photos. I feel like it is helpful though to get people to critique your photos. So, you know, if you do anything from this, just ask somebody else for some critique, because I always think that's useful. Okay, on to the first mistake, and that is just not allowing people to be kept in an image and having lines with an image that lead you out of an image. So this is a good example here from Joe Robbins. It's a lovely scene, this lake, and he's got some nice foreground here, but I feel that there's just, if you look, the lake just goes out and this line here just goes off the edge of the frame, and I feel that that sort of leads you out in this direction. And Joe, if anything, you could have just moved maybe a little bit to the left and tried to get a little bit of a gap here. I think that would have just, that small thing would have created a difference in this image. Here's another one. This is from Andre. I'm probably saying all these names wrong. This is a lovely shot of a waterfall. I really like you've got this moving water going through here, but because you've got the fern and the rock on the left-hand side here, your eye sort of goes here, follows the water, and there's nothing to keep you in on the right-hand side. So if anything, just having something down here, maybe in this bit, so you have sort of a triangle to sort of keep your eye into the image would really help. I think just another bush here, and then your eye would go between these 3 items and this water would run nice and neatly. But at the moment, I feel like it just drifts out of the right-hand side. Okay, on to the next one. This is Henrik Gusen. Again, the same mistake. I mean, I say mistake loosely, but because it is a nice image, but I feel like, and there's probably a reason you couldn't do this, Henrik, but if you just move to the left a little bit, again, I think that your eye gets led out to the left of this frame here on the left-hand side. So I definitely think that this is one where you probably could have just maybe gone a little bit forward and moved a little bit to the left, and it would have just created a more central part for this waterfall, and I think that would have really helped. Just a few examples of things that I think worked really well. I mean, this is an amazing avenue, but it's interesting this because there's no real diagonals in it. Apart from on this image, if you look, there's sort of a diagonal leading there and a diagonal leading there, and there's also a bit of a diagonal there and there, I feel, from the trees, and that all leads you to this central area here, which I think works really, really well. Okay, on to the next one, and this is from Stephen, and this is a brilliant example, I think, of just again leading your eye and keeping your eye in the image. And the reason that this works is because we've got this tree here on the right hand side. So your eye goes down this path, and if we didn't have this tree, I feel like you'd lead out of the image here, but this tree almost, it's a bit like pinball. Your eye just sort of gets bounced back into the hut here. Beautiful leading line here. I have to say, this is an image that was posted on the Facebook Masterclass group, and I pinned this because I just thought it was such an amazing shot. Another example of just keeping your eye in the image and what works is this shot here from Gerard. I feel that you know, probably Gerard, if I was critical of this image, I'd say it would be nice to have it in better light. But what I really like is this path leading you in, and then the two houses, opposing houses, work really well to sort of almost sandwich your eye in the middle. So you sort of come in and that's really nice. This gate on the right hand side here is just a little bit distracting, but yeah, this works really, really well. Okay, on to the next mistake, and this is probably the most common mistake that I see photographers make, and it's just having the camera horizontal and not pointing it down a little bit more, or pointing it up as well, but it's mostly pointing it down. And I feel like it's because you want to try and get a reasonable amount of sky in, or you think the sky is quite interesting, which can be valid. But I think there's a few images I want to go through here which could be amazing if you just pointed it down. So this one is, I think it's a Quang in the Isle of Skye. This is from Peter, and it's lovely light, the clouds are amazing, but I just feel just pointing your camera just a little bit down, getting a little bit more foreground and a little bit less sky, which actually at the top's a little bit boring. I think, you know, just more foreground around here would have really helped. So another great example here, and you know, we've got a bit too much sky and just need a little bit more at the bottom just to give a little bit of space. Often when you have objects like this and they're close to the edge, you just want a bit of space around them. So I feel like beautiful image, but it would have just been improved just a slight bit if you turned the camera down. Again with this one, probably not so much with this one, but this is from Arthur, and Arthur has done a good job of again getting some nice light here. But I feel like these grasses just need a little bit more space, and again, pointing your camera down would have been the same. Again, same for this one as well. From David, I feel like the reflections need space on the bottom. You know, if you could just take some of that sky and put it on the bottom, I feel like this image would be just a little bit better. The other advice I give if you're taking shots like this is if you're taking a panorama, it doesn't mean you have to take the biggest panorama you can. So for instance, in this image, I feel like just cropping it to sort of maybe here, and then maybe just a little bit in there, I feel like this just creates a slight, you could even get rid of the snow-capped mountain and just have this island, and I think it would be really nice. But I'm going to get onto that a little bit of time. So this image here from Julian, I think is a good example of where you don't need to point the image down. This is a great use of negative space. So this negative space here, and this one person, if the person wasn't in it, I don't think it works quite so well, but we're trying to create a sense of isolation, tell that story of how remote it is and how vast it is. By having that one person and then that vast open sky, and the sky's very dark, so it leads you into the image, I think works incredibly well. So great shot that, I really like it. And then this is another good example of just simplicity where, you know, you've just got the camera angle at the right level, you don't need any more on the bottom, there's a nice balance between the sky and the bottom. But the thing that I think works for this is because you have got that rainbow, so there's a need for that extra sky, because if you don't want to cut that rainbow out, you want to give it room to breathe in the sky. But there's a lot of elements about this shot here from Mark that I really like. You know, the simplicity of it, that just all the elements of it are very simplistic. They almost feel like they've been placed or painted in the scene. And it's actually quite a difficult location to shoot this. It's Bleatarn in the Lake District. So yeah, I really like that. So if you're liking this video so much, then it really helps me if you give it a thumbs up. We probably won't get to 100,000 like we did in the last mistakes video, but you never know. And I tell you what, if we do, I'll give away a Nikon camera. So if we get to 100,000 likes, I will give away a Z7 camera. And also, if you're not subscribed to the channel, and 45% of people who watch my videos aren't, then there's a subscribe button below. Massively appreciate it if you consider it. Okay, on to the next images. So these are images that I feel are where you've just included a little bit too much again. So this one also is a little bit dark, so I'm just going to quickly just brighten it up a little bit. And I'll talk about dark images in a minute, but I feel like this one's just a little bit dark. It just needs to have a little bit more contrast. But I feel that this image, these two trees aren't adding anything to the composition. So if I just move that to there, This shadow's okay-ish because it sort of doesn't detract your eye. It sort of draws your eye into the image, if anything. It creates this nice diagonal here. But you could probably just crop that in. I mean, it's personal taste really of where you end up having it. But I feel like just having a more simplistic image is good. It's the same with this, just a simple crop on this, just to add, you know, usually less is more. Just getting rid of these trees on the left-hand side here, I feel like they're not adding a lot to the image. And I feel like this is a bit better. You might need to crop in on the right as well. Maybe about there. So great shot, Vaza. I feel like just that crop's just a little bit better. I feel like this gap on the left-hand side to this tree, it feels like you more purposely placed that tree. You know, usually less is more in photography. It's difficult because you see all these amazing things and you want to include them, but less is usually more. This is a good example as well, where you've got a shot, which is actually quite nice. You've got this river and you've got some nice light, but I feel like just going in a bit closer in this image drastically changes it. So if I just go in and just shoot there, then we've got a really nice fence that goes in there, and this just creates a much more simplistic image. You can see here that I've got a really nice sort of S-curve going through now. This is a much stronger line. You can see this waterfall. It just works a little bit better than that more complex crop as we had before here. It's a really nice image, Mike. Thanks for sharing it. This is a good example here of a shot that works really well. There's nothing too complex about it. We just shot these trees that are nicely backlit. It looks fantastic. Okay, the next thing is just moving left or right. It's a really simple tip, but it's a mistake I see all the time. This is such an amazing scene to shoot. It is a really nice image as it stands at the moment, but I think you could just elevate it a little bit just by moving to the right-hand side. You would have done two things there. One, I feel like this diagonal would have been further over to the left. You would have got rid of these two rocks, which I feel like a little bit distracting. And then also these rocks would have been further to the left and would have created a more diagonal line between the mountain and the top and here. So just moving a little bit to the right would have meant other things moved to the left. The mountain would have stayed pretty much the same, maybe to the left a little bit. And this image would have worked so much better. This is another example like that. This is one of mine actually, where I feel like I should have shot sort of diagonally through this way here, and I would have actually got these rocks and this in, and not this rock and this. There's just too much in the scene. So if it had just moved to the left, I think it would have been better. But I was getting carried away. I was running around like a headless chicken, like we all do. But I feel like that would have improved it. Okay, the next mistake that I want to talk about, and this is something that I've done all the time. All these mistakes are, to be honest, and I still make these mistakes. But it's about use of sun in your images and making sure that if you do have the sun, it doesn't become a distracting element in the images. I feel like in this one, it's almost okay, but because it's blown out, it just draws your eye to it. And you know, it draws your eye to it quite strongly. I feel, and I know it's difficult to do this, but I feel like that balloon over the sun would have worked because you'd got some sun coming through the balloon. I suspect it's probably difficult to do that because they're flying low and you needed to be lower to do that, and you don't want to drop off a cliff. But positionally, I feel like just not having that sun so bright, maybe you could have moved to the left and shot away from the sun a little bit. That would have helped. It's the same with this, but slightly different. I feel like the sun works in this image, but I just think the processing just isn't quite right. And this is something I see all the time where people are blowing out the sun and they haven't blended the sun into the surroundings. There's a photographer that I would go and look at, well, two photographers really. Peter Everson's really good at it, and actually three photographers. Nick Page is good at it, and Daniel Corden's good at it. Daniel Corden's images are so good. He shoots a lot into the sun, but the way he edits it and creates that soft feeling is just so nice. This image I've just edited quickly, and can you see how I've just softened down that sun there? Hopefully you can see that just on here. I've just softened it down a little bit, and that works really, really well. But I like this image. This was from Fleming, so thanks a lot for sending this in. It's a really nice atmospheric image. The next one, again, it's just probably this image. I would have got lower, used the sun to backlit the dog here, but not have the sun in the image. This is from Ramona, which again, it's just nice use of light, but I just don't think you need the sun. I think it's all about the dog and this haze down here. I can't really crop it because I think you needed to go lower to get this shot, but I feel like this is the shot on here. The sun doesn't need to be in the shot is what I'm trying to say. Just using the light is often more important than actually having the sun in the shot. Here's a good example from Jim of, I think it's Bamborough Castle, and it's using the sun and shooting into the sun, but having something in the way. So it's a similar thing to I was saying with the balloon. We've got Bamborough Castle in the way here. We're just using the glow of the sun behind Bamborough Castle, and this is a beautiful, beautiful image. You know, it's got a nice line in, it's got another diagonal in here, and it just looks so nice. So yeah, I really like this image. Thanks, Jim. Okay, the next mistake is something I did talk about in another video a while back. And this is just thinking about your edges. Again, it's a mistake that comes up so often. When we were judging the World Landscape Photographer competition, we discounted quite a lot of images because there was just distractions on the edges. So this one here, this is a shot from Stuart. I think with woodland photography, what I would recommend is not going through the middle of a trunk at the edge of a frame. Usually that doesn't work. You know, if you look at good woodland photography from people like Mark Robbins, I'll put a link down to Mark's work below, you'll find that he doesn't do that often. I try not to do that as well. Sometimes I do, but very, very rarely. I feel like it's distracting. Your eyes led to this tree here. So I think in this image, I would have moved around to the left a little bit and trying to compress the space between that diagonal tree fall and that really nice tree with I think it's a beech tree with the leaves. This image is again another good example of that, where we've got the sky at the top, and you can probably get rid of that sky. I don't think it adds anything to the image. I think it's just distracting. But I feel like then you need to just get rid of these posts. But I think, you know, just having that simplistic image works so much better. So thanks, Julian, for that shot. I really liked it. It just needed that crop. This is a really good example of an image where I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to frame the image. It's a little bit dark, so we're just going to brighten it up a little bit. So I know you're just trying to frame the image, but the key thing here is that this doesn't become a frame, it becomes a little bit of distraction. This is really nice. So on the right hand side here, we've got this tree that's nicely framing the image. This tree is beautiful here. We've got a nice corner here. You know, we've got nice layers, but this is just a little bit distracting. Now we can crop that out, but you could have had that tree in, but I just think you needed more of it. I think cropping it out is better. I feel like this is a stronger shot, even though it's a little bit unbalanced now. I just feel like it just feels nicer to look at than the one with the distraction on. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is a mistake, and I think it's a mistake with people's brightnesses of their monitors. I think everybody turns a monitor up a little bit too bright. Again, I've done this before. You edit something, you look at it on your phone, you think, why is it looking so dark? Or, more importantly, you print it out and it looks dark. I print a lot, so I make sure that my monitor is set to the right brightness. And a lot of the images that I got for review were just too dark. So this one's a good example. You can see that it doesn't look too bad, but there's a lot of really amazing information in here that if you brighten, I can do two things to brighten this up. I can brighten up the display. So if I just go and brighten up the display, then you can see more of it. But that's not the right way to do it. The display's set about right. It should be probably about, you know, you can up a lot of things on this, and that is probably more like the brightness level it should be. The reason that's important is because you want your work to be seen by others in the correct way. You might look at it and it might look fine on your monitor, but when somebody else looks at it on Instagram or on your website and they've got their monitor turned to the correct level, then, or you're going to print it, then it's going to come out dark. So the really, really good mistake that. A good mistake, how can you have a good mistake, but a good thing to think about. And this is an image from Scott. I really like the image, Scott. I'd crop that tree out at the top there. I feel like it just doesn't need that tree, or you just need to get a bit more of the tree in. again, this was another shot that we had that was just, quite dark. I presume that this looked really good on a monitor, but obviously it's too dark. This one was too dark. So definitely something to think about. Okay, the final mistake, and before I tell you the final mistake, I've still got some calendars left, by the way, and I've decided that I'm just going to continue with free postage. So even though pre-orders have finished now, if you want one of these, pre-orders are starting to go out next week, by the way, and any orders that are placed now will go out around about the same time. Then I'm going to do free postage worldwide. There isn't that many left, so if you do want one, then you probably need to get to the link below quite quick. Okay, final mistake. So this is all about just foregrounds and just having a little bit messy foregrounds, but making sure that the foreground's there for a purpose. It's not messy, and it's just leading your eye through to the actual main part of the image. So if you look at this image here, so this is a beautiful shot of these clouds rolling over the hill. This is from Miyamoto. I've said that completely wrong, sorry. But the best part of this image is this part here, so this bit at the back. So I feel like the sky and the foreground should be leading you to that bit at the back. And I'll show you an example of a shot I took that explains how you can make that happen. But that means that this shouldn't be distracting, or there should be just one element in it that your eye looks at and then leads through to the rest of the image. But the problem is that this rock here is quite dark, it's quite contrasty, and your eye goes to that rock all the time. And because it's not separated, it's sort of connected to the bush behind, then yeah, that doesn't quite work. A simple way of doing it is maybe moving down to the water or finding some grass that's nice and clean, or just concentrating on one rock. This is another example from Jeremy, and again, especially when you've got dull conditions like this, you've got to try. There's no real amazing thing in the background, so you've got to make the foreground the star of the shot. So what I would do is try and find some really interesting rocks, get quite close on them, having them come up from the bottom of the frame, and look at, and so you can see the texture of the rocks, you can see the barnacles on the rocks, you can see the seaweed, the lines of the rocks. That's what will improve a shot like this. It's often very difficult to do that. It's something that I struggled with for quite a long time, and I still struggle with it. I take lots of shots like this. I'm not criticizing you, Jeremy. I'm just trying to point out something as I would do in my own photos. This is a good example from Arthur, where I feel like he's got that really, really well. This isn't detracting from the lighthouse. It just leads your eye in. It's beautiful in its own right, but it doesn't detract. It just leads your eye in, and it's nice and simple. And this is an example of mine that I wanted to show you, where all the detail is in the middle of the image. The bottom and top of the image aren't trying to draw your attention away from that. They're drawing your eye into that. It's darker at the top, it goes to light. There's a line that leads in. This grass doesn't draw your eye away from it. And that helps just to create this more simple image. Okay, that's it for this week. Before I tell you how to get your photos into another critique like this, I'm going to be doing something else that's a little bit different. Then I want to tell you about this week's sponsor, and that is Squarespace. You know all about Squarespace. They're an amazing domain name and website provider. They allow you to build your online shop, share your portfolio, and just write blogs. And you don't need any technical skills. That's what's so good about it. I absolutely love it. It makes my life so easy to run a photography business, but also I used it before I did all this just to share my images. They really are easy. So if you're looking to build your own website, or you're looking to set up a domain, then you can use offer code Nigel to get 10% off, or go to squarespace.com/Nigel. Make sure you check them out. So to get your photos into another critique video, which I will be doing, then you need to be signed up for the newsletter, or you need to be a member of the masterclass, because I share things like this quite often on the masterclass group. And to do that, there's a link in the description for the newsletter, and also there's a discount code for my masterclass as well. That's it. It's been quite a long video. Thanks ever so much for watching, and until next Sunday, or maybe Tuesday, you never know, bye.